Okay. And yeah, we should chant something before.
What would you like, sir?
If you have that Lama channel thing, we can share. If not, then whatever we have in the past or future.
I think Chenru has that chant.
Okay.
James, you look on the drive. I also uploaded it in the folder.
Okay.
I guess before I start, maybe I can quickly say, so as the meeting evolves to make sure the meetings run smoothly, we had some tasks, emerging tasks, and then folks have generously offered to take them up. So thank you, Sandra and Magda, for willing to be our English omzes when necessary. And also Michael and Spencer both are willing to read the questions in the chat box from us. We're hoping that maybe we rotate these roles every 3 or 4 months so everyone can contribute. But I also know some folks have limited technical capacities. So no worries. I'm sure we'll have other tasks, but just thank you so much for helping. And I will make you our co-host. And James, if you have trouble finding a prayer, let me know.
I guess I was supposed to be looking for it.
I can also share. Where is it? Desktop.
Tempo?
Yes.
I don't know if you're interested, but I also know a kind of a Tibetan melody for this Guru Yoga, at least the Lama Khyentse, which is always helpful for me because I'm such an intellectually focused person. It helps me to sing devotional mantras. So if you like, I can sing the melody if people are interested in learning it.
Are you reading in English?
I'm just going to sing the Lama Khyentse mantra to a melody. That's all.
Okay. Start. Can
I'll sing
you?
it. I'll sing it
Yeah.
3 times, and people can try to pick it up. It has a few notes, and it just repeats. And of course, we're thinking about the positive qualities of our guru and all his kindness for us, and all the time and effort they take to teach us. So, as I understand it, this is a melody that came from Dzogchen Monastery, but I also think it's pretty common just in Tibet in general. It goes like this. So, make sure everyone's muted who might like to try to sing along. Lama Khyentse, Lama Khyentse, Lama Khyentse, Lama Khyentse. So that's the melody, and then the Umze can proceed with the prayer.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. That's wonderful. And you notice that Tibetan, we don't have no in here, but when you chant, you can add that one thing. And also these, the whole preliminary practice, this is a wonderful, beautiful, and full with blessings and so forth. You can see how your faith works and how your faith is equate to or analogous the stem of the flower, where you and calling a lama to rise from there, which means maybe while we are sleeping, means our guru is sleeping in our heart. When we wake up, then lama is also wake up at the same time, could be earlier than us most of the time, and but still need to wake up by our faith or devotion. Without this, then Lama may fall asleep, and then we didn't know Lama's still there or not. This is beautiful, and we can find the whole preliminary practice in Lotsa house. So maybe their translation and their other things would be better. This is just short excerpt from this preliminary practice of the Longqing Yingtek preliminary practice, which I practice since maybe I was 13 years old. And I carry this text with me when I go to take care of yaks or sheep, or every day I chant with other texts. So these texts is mainly my kind of childhood comfort practice that I have done a million times. And fortunately, we have the whole translation and transliteration or phonetic in there. So we also can check that. But the last or second session is from larger sadhana, is a 7-branch offering or 7-branch accumulation of offering. That's coming from there. And of course, the melody you can use either way is fine, but sometimes I love the Dunyum calling Lama from far that sometimes I think introduce, or at least there's few lines that really I thought is very important. We talk about this maybe in Florida or Chicago. I don't remember. We have these 4 lines of the Dunyum calling Lama from far. It's very, really beautiful. If you remember that, then so that's why sometimes these melodies comes with kind of Dunjum Lama Jambu or the calling Lama from far melodies. So it doesn't really matter whatever you way of you chant, that's good. And each tradition would have different melodies. And the meaning of this chanting is, I think, is really beautiful thing here. And this is a Longqing Yingtek tradition, which is my sort of main practice when I grow up with Longqing Yingtek practice, and without knowing any meaning, but I chant this preliminary practice every day and during sadhanas of Lama Yidam Khandro, the Lama Rinzin. So I thought I mentioned the Rinzin Duba, the gatherings of the Vidyadharas. You have a book. I know you are bookworms that want to read book a lot. There is a book I bought in book, then I somehow give to other one to read. So I don't have physical book, but I have the ebook there. You can, that gathering with Vidyadharas. That is the Guru Sadhana, Guru Rinpoche Sadhana in the Longqing Yingtek tradition. After preliminary practice, would you practice Guru practice? That is it's not called Guru Yoga. It's a Lama Yidam Khandro, that Guru Sadhana. But this is more explanation You can see comment text and commentary on the Rinpoche is gathering of the Vidyadharas. I think in the future we have chance to maybe dealing more with this sadhana and maybe could be empowerment and so forth. So that is one of our agenda in the future, near or far future. And then the Dakinis practice with the Yishi Soja is called Dechen Jalmo, the Greek bliss lady. That is also, so these sadhanas you can find already in Lotao house, I think. And so thank you so much, everyone, and taking time to spend time with us here. We are just trying to figure out why we are doing this and what we are doing and why it's not come yet, but it will come soon. So what we are doing is how related to our practice. Of course, practice has lineage, and this is one of lineage that I practice daily, and it's also, of course, everyone thinks its own lineage is the best, and of course, my lineage is best. And you cannot argue with that. There's no why. It is always the best. And so we, few of us just come back from GBI, and we find out that this particular teaching and at that occasion, we chant this calling Lama from far or rising Lama from your heart. So this chant is, of course, I recognize that this from the preliminary practice of Longchen Ying. Maybe in the future we can chant Lara further, but in the meanwhile, we just chant this for purpose of our changing motivation and rising faith and so forth. So this is very important. So earlier, James already helped us to the melody of Lam Mancheno, Lam Mancheno, Lam Mancheno, so forth. And then we can read from here. Last time we read in Tibetan. Maybe this time someone can read in English. But Zoom, you know, one person can read. Less rest of us, we need to just mute and follow.
Jinru asked me to start. Lama, care for me. O Lama, care for me. O Lama, care for me. From the blossoming lotus of devotion at the center of my heart, rise up, O compassionate Lama, my only refuge. I am plagued by past actions and turbulent emotions. To protect me in my misfortune, remain as the jewel ornament on the crown of my head, the chakra of great bliss, arousing all my mindfulness and awareness, I pray. Ho, like bubbles appearing on water, all of you deities arise from the space of primordial wisdom. Before you, I prostrate in direct awareness of the ultimate nature. I offer the increase of visionary experience. I confess in the full measure of awareness. I rejoice in the exhaustion of phenomenal reality. I implore you, turn the wheel of Dharma from the expanse of great transference. I request you, please remain in the great rainbow body. I dedicate all the merit toward the youthful base body. Om Ahom. 1 billion universes, 100 times 10 million worlds, filled with all the wealth of gods and human beings, like the 7 precious gems, My bodies, my possessions, and my sources of merit all together, I offer them in their entirety so that I may be born as a Nirmanakaya and turn the wheel of Dharma, liberating all beings. The highest heaven of great bliss, the realm of Ganabuha, perfect with the 5 certainties, the mandala of the 5 Buddha families, and inconceivably vast clouds of offerings of every variety of sensual and emotional stimulants. With this offering, may I enjoy the perfection of the Sambhogakaya fields, where all appearance and existence are completely pure from the very beginning. The youthful vase body, ornamented by the play of dharmata, unceasing compassion. The realm where all clinging to the perception of kayas and tigles is naturally liberated. With this wisdom offering, may I enjoy the freedom of the Dharmakaya reality.
Thank you. That's 2 parts. The first part is coming from preliminary practice, and the second part is coming from these gatherings of Vidyadhara, the sadhana, main sadhana itself. So we will figure out those in a later, because once we go to Tantra means Buddha's own teaching that belongs to these categories of secret mantrayana. That's when we say Tantra, which means Buddha's own teaching. And the Guhya Samaja,
Guya Garba.
Guhya Garbha, sorry. Guhya Garbha is the main tantras based on the all other tantras, and particularly Guhya Garbha is important to the all Nyingma traditions, that all sadhanas is based on these tantra, and this tantra is talking about the 100 deities and so forth when we go through that. But the tantra itself is very difficult to just dive into to understand everything. But there's commentaries, probably around 20 commentaries by Tibetans and Indians. And the most famous commentaries are Longchenpa's The Dispellings of Darkness of 10 Directions, or that is correct or not, but something like that in Tibetan. And this is quite large and a big volume. And this is so important and also so kind of profound. It's a little bit difficult to people get teachings and teachers to teach students. So that's why sometimes when we say Tantra, it's a little bit difficult to say, what does that mean? What are they are? And when I remember, I was in Nepal, one very famous Khenpo came from Tibet. And at that time, he gave teaching on these all few commentaries based mainly Longchen Rinpoche, these dispellings of darkness. And all over the world, most Western teachers, Tibetan teachers, lamas, and high lamas, and scholars, everyone come from all over the world, and including Dzogchen Ponglo Rinpoche, 这个贡出 Rinpoche, and Shichen Ramjen Rinpoche, and Chunyima Rinpoche, all are there when we study this particular commentary by Longchenpa. And that, of course, takes a long time and also more complicated. In the West, I think Khenpo Namdor taught many years. If we are really going deeper, maybe we can find the record of recording or recorded teachings. I could find them, but we see that if you want to spend at that time. But meanwhile, good thing is I have Mipham Rinpoche's, not I have, we maybe will try to look at those Mipham Rinpoche's commentaries. So that's why before we approach to this commentary, maybe good to have some concept and some terms that maybe helps as to what it's talking about. And fortunately, John requests me to give a loan, and I somehow say, yes, I don't know why. And he came all the way to Florida to listen in hot, humid weather, few days or about a week. We spent time there, and of course, few of you were there as well. But I don't know. That's maybe not recorded, but it's. So we are looking at this particular text by Mipham Rinpoche. And right before that, we have this text is mainly talking about how to approach any Buddhist teaching that through sort of making sense, logic, or sense or nature, what would play, and that is an important part of our kind of pedagogy or strategy to dive into larger texts. And meanwhile, of course, there is two systems that we need to know. I think that's now maybe James and Chen will figure out what those four categories are. Mainly, we all know what's real and what is not real. So that is the Buddhist way of saying one is ultimate truth, means ultimate truth is reliable, and conventional truth means it's not reliable. But however, this system doesn't really cover the whole teachings of Buddhism. Because if you look at the Buddhist teachings, Panchaparamita or the emptiness doctrine or emptiness text, we know its appearances is conventional truth and emptiness is ultimate truth. If we only stuck in that, then we don't know how to deal with Buddha nature and our mind nature and our luminous mind nature. And then in Tibet, we have another term called Rangtong and Xiantong. Then Rangtong means empty of self, means empty. Hi, Anne.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for coming. And this emptiness doctrine, is only emptiness doctrine is not suitable for describing our mind nature, because we need to talk about luminous aspect of mind, which comes much more prominent in later sutras and Buddha nature sutras and tantric sutra, tantric practice. Yeah. And then we need to think about not only there's inherently things do not exist, and sometimes people like to use inherent, but it's saying if we have this idea of thing and nothing only, then everything appears to us as, of course, we know, delusionally appearing like dream, but reality is not, has not any appearances. So the appearances we can accept as a conventional, which means temporary, advantageous, sort of mistake or confusion, delusional thing. And if that's the case, then the Buddha nature and the Buddhahood and all these wisdoms, we need to categorize or put in whether empty aspect or appearance aspect. So because our view is become sort of black and white. We don't have much tool to that. So that's why it's coming these the second system of the two truth is coming from due to that understanding. And that understanding is helpful because then we don't need to say emptiness, relative truth, not all appearances we don't need to put in a sort of conventional truth or relative truth. We don't need to step with the emptiness is only the ultimate truth. So we can accept this Xiantong point of view. Xiantong means empty of other. Empty of other means these Buddha qualities. So what we have good qualities, that is not nothing. It's devoid of samsaric dualistic confusion and the mistaken aspect of that is giving this example is like space and cloud. Space is whether clouds there or not. Space, the nature of space has never changed, but clouds could obscure our understanding, or the cloud could block the sun's light and so forth. So this is temporary things, and that comes from the Buddha nature tags we have, and those things. So here the true truth is different. True truth is based on something we can rely on, even it might be appearances. But then the dualistic part, the samsaric, the confusion and the obscuration part is, of course, then it's a conventional truth. And so these two systems are slightly different. One is based on the empty of self. One is based on empty of others. If you have still have doesn't make sense what is empty of self and what is empty of others, it's think more about the empty of self means that there's dharmas. There's, if we think about the perspective of the true truth, which are the emptiness is ultimate truth and appearance is conventional truth, is there is nothing that exists, and emptiness is ultimate truth. But then the empty of others, which means the qualities of Buddha nature or Buddha's qualities or the wisdoms that are not empty of itself. It's empty of self means then nothing happened. And so that's why we thought we have these two systems, then it become sort of we are lopsided. Either we are thinking internalized and or nihilism point of view, we can fall into these categories. If we think Buddha natures, but we still need to imply this when we say all appearances are conventional and all appearance are all every single one of dharmas and so forth. And this is sort of important until Mipham Rinpoche's teachings is never really clarifies in the Buddhist teachings in Tibet. There is always rivalries between whether my view is empty of self or my view is empty of others. So these two are quite become almost no way to compromise these two because it's saying whether it exists or whether does not exist things or do not exist. So that is if that's sort of I want to clarify. Maybe this is an important part of our agenda. So Lincoln first.
Yeah, Kimple, there was a glitch in the Zoom transmission where the important explanation you were giving disappeared for most of us. So if you could rewind just a little bit, that would be helpful.
Right at the Shen Tong Rang Tong part.
Okay.
Be close to the beginning of that.
Yep,
Maybe that part is
the obstructors.
is I should not say it that way, maybe.
It wasn't too long, Kempo, only a few seconds.
Oh, okay. The rest of I said, okay, that means because this is maybe important part, yeah.
It was right where you were saying that Shen Tong, the Buddha's qualities and wisdoms, are not empty of themselves.
Yeah.
It was right there where it cut off.
Yeah, Xian Dong. And Xian Dong, Xian means other, Dong means empty. So then I think in English, people often translate as empty of others. So that's often emphasized Buddha nature. So Buddha nature is not exactly the same as samsaric thing. If samsaric things we say like dream, when wake up, disappear, and then nothing happen again. That is called a delusion, yeah, or confusion. And the Buddha nature, in a Buddha nature text, it's saying Buddha nature is always there and never be deluded and so forth. So that's the Xiantong, the empty of others. Is the Buddha nature empty of samsara, which means this Buddha nature and emptiness are two things. And the empty of other, which helps us to, but there's something that we can rely on. And that could be Buddha's wisdom, could be Buddha quality, other qualities, or our mind nature as well. And this is Mipham Rinpoche wants to put, it's don't want to equate it as any other phenomena because that makes then in a conventional level, there's true truths. The conventional truth, the things appear to us or we understand correctly. Buddha nature, whatever the qualities Buddha nature has, is always remains is on way. And this helps us to, this is not exactly as emptiness. When we say emptiness, then we can imply on everything to say nothing really exists. But here, when we say the empty of others, which means Buddha nature exists in a certain level. Maybe we don't have access it, but it still exists. It's not exactly as the samsaric things. So that is Xiantong, or the empty of others. And then Rangtong takes very strictly, it's saying the empty and appearances are these two things. Emptiness is ultimate truth because when we investigate or analyze things, nothing we can find. So the appear doesn't mean it's there. And that is dissolve into the emptiness. So that's why it's these two systems is necessary. Not one system can take care of the whole Buddhist teaching. And this is very important because in Tibet, we read sutras a lot, either for oneself or for they call house pujas, the families they want to read the whole Ganjur for family, or these Panchaparamita sutras. And there was a famous teacher pointing out that when you read the Panchaparamita Mother Sutras, you feel that nothing exists, everything's empty, because in Heart Sutra we know there's even no Buddha wisdoms or ignorance, or there's no samsara or nirvana. But then if you read more Langa Avataras and other these Buddha nature sutras, you feel that there's something beyond these samsaric things. And if you need to deal with these two, not really contradicting these two, but merging or joining these two, then it needs these two systems to bring in together. If not, it's very difficult to bring in together this working, this empty yet but luminous and everlasting quality that Buddha nature is. And this is it's not easy. Of course, our conceptual mind always think that if it's empty, then cannot be appear. If appear, then cannot be empty, and so forth. These are two things, but in a logically, one system cannot take care of these two together. That's why this Mipham Rinpoche wants to use these, either we call two system or four system of the true truth. There's two types of true truths. Yeah, the Rangtong, the empty of self system, and the Xiantong, empty of other system. Any thoughts?
There's one question from the chats.
Yeah.
Lee was wondering, am I correct in believing Shentong holds that Buddha nature and all its self-perfected qualities are permanent?
Yes. And that is correct. And that's one. However, we also need to imply this Rangtong point of view as well. So Mipham want to blend two together, not there's two systems that treat separately, and he doesn't want to live how people want to. He wanted to join these two systems together to treat both as a single system. That's more confused, maybe? Both, once you enjoy, once you can accept empty yet appearing, everlasting, permanent yet empty, that kind of understanding or notion should arise in our mind.
It's another question. This is a follow-up, and then I'll go to another question. So Lee says, but doesn't this imply Buddha nature is not beyond the 8 extremes?
Exactly. That's the point of these two system works. The two system makes once we accept all phenomena are illusion and it's empty when you investigate it. But this Xiantong point of view comes with when we conventionally, in a conventional level, there's true truths. This conventional doesn't mean is this truth is not reliable. So now conventional means we are talking about the approachable, or maybe approachable is not somehow we need to interacting with these conventional things. Either when we talk about the Buddha nature or Buddha or Dharmakaya even, how we can think about. So that should we treat as equal as samsaric delusional thing or something that we want to treat separately. So Mipham wants to treat these two sort of distinctly. One is reliable, acceptable, and everlasting, and one is not reliable, not acceptable, and not everlasting.
One more question. Mariko said, in Zen, we often hear that even all the dharmas are empty, which always confused me. Is this a nihilistic perspective?
All dharmas are empty is really profound, profound teaching. Zen or Dzogchen or any Buddhist use this, but because our thoughts and terms are very limited here. What we can say, we cannot say much. If we say exist is worst choice word for than emptiness. Let's say emptiness. If there at least that's negate something, and that what negate is we are going kind of different zone. We know existing things are what we rely on and what we know that. But let's say it's the opposite of that to negate our thought. So that's why the emptiness is useful, and using that in all Buddhist teachings, Panchaparamita, Zen, to Dzogchen. But the one thing emphasizing the luminous mind or mind nature that Zen and Dzogchen and others use, that's talking about Buddha nature, because Zen, mainly Zen teachings are based on Lanka Avatara Sutras and Diamond Sutras and so forth, but they are not really talk about just empty aspect, but mind has something to do with, because if you look at the mind and so forth, this is a but there's many Zen traditions. At least we have the emptiness is people. Of course, people can fall into the nihilistic view, but that's the individual's ability. I think the empty, but we don't have better word to describe as well. So it's a how to say, a tricky word we are using, but it's helpful. But it's also could be people, if we hold on this view very tightly, say everything's empty, nothing happened, nothing never happened, and then it's a little bit difficult. So we have another channel. Do you have question?
Just a few things, because I know you also do research on the crossover.
So maybe your map, or it's a little bit kind of echoing to trying to close to the microphone.
Is this better?
Yeah.
Okay. Just a few things, because one thing is, it's very helpful to hear that you say Mipham Rinpoche is trying to bring the two systems together so that we don't fall into either extreme. At the same time, I also kind of follow up on the questions that have already been posted. I felt the emptiness of other, there's still some, it feels like there's some kind of attachment to emptiness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and then I remember in our Madhyamaka class, it seems it's more that you cannot have any attachment. Otherwise, you are trapped. So I wonder if you can say a little bit more about that. And then at the same time, I also understand if one keeps saying, oh, just stop the conceptual mind, how they could be criticized of that the one thing it's impossible, and the other thing is just by saying that it's still not stopping. So it's, yeah.
Yeah, these are, of course, core teachings, also core arguments and core. Sometimes people hold on very strong views on this, whether this or that. It's of course difficult to say, but the Mipham Rinpoche is trying to bring these two systems together. I think one thing is beneficial, because Buddhist teaching is mainly categorized three. The first, the training of the will of Dharma, which is mainly talks about the Four Noble Truth and Praditya Samuppada, the interdependent origination, and so forth. And then second training of the will of Dharma is more saying emptiness. There's no self. And then the third training, the will of Dharma, is talking about Buddha nature and qualities. So even the Buddha's himself's teaching is step by step. I think it's very important to understand emptiness nature of the phenomena, illusory nature of the phenomena first, and then top of that, if you build Buddha qualities, then detach by understanding of the emptiness. If you totally ignore the Buddha qualities, then it's a little bit what Mariko was saying, that if the Zen tradition or any tradition that is attached to or really go deeper into the only empty aspects, there's nothing, then it's a little bit difficult to get out from there. And that's why Nagarjuna say, if someone understand emptiness mistakenly, then that's really become medicine. That medicine become poison. So it's not how we say it, but I think people how understand it. It's more. James.
Thank you, Kempo. I'm just trying to help clarify an earlier question. The question that Mariko asked, where she said, in Zen, we often hear that even all the dharmas are empty.
Mm-hmm.
What she meant was the dharma that the Buddha teaches, not dharma as all phenomena are empty, but that also the teachings of the Buddha are empty. That was what her question. I clarified it with her directly. So if you could comment on that.
Oh, okay. Yes, that Dharma has 10 meanings. Yeah, that's the Indian Sanskrit and also Tibetan they call Chu, and Chinese Fa would have or has 10 meaning. And of course, then Zen Dharma means everything, phenomena, and including the teaching itself, texts and Zen teachings or any other teachings. So that should be empty. So of course, then if we go too far to empty, what does empty really mean? Is never appear or never was there or never affect us? No, empty means its nature has no own entity. It means illusion. So sometimes people don't want to equate emptiness and illusion or delusion. So delusion means emptiness because there's nothing to appear, but it's appear, and at yet appearing there's nothing. And these are, phenomena include the teaching. That's everywhere. Chan and also Dzogchen talk about that. Dzogchen sometimes talk about these teachings are not coming from the scriptures and so forth. It's a similar way of saying. So yeah, Chan is sometimes go a little bit further. Yeah, they have these antinomian things that if you meet a Buddha on a path, you need to kill him. So they smash Buddha's statues and so forth. That is one way of become a little bit strong view on emptiness. Anything against empty view, then you need to physically or actively you need to destroy it. That is a sort of maybe not really good method, but people still can think that solve the problem as well. Okay, if everyone's happy with the empty of self and the empty of others, we can talk for life. Maybe Spencer have another.
Sandra has a question. It's a long series of questions, though.
Okay.
So maybe if she wants to, do you want to ask yourself, Sandra? Or do you want me just to read through it all?
Yes.
Or maybe I can be helpful here a minute, Kempo. It's all the questions about the basis. Is the basis unchanging? Is it indeterminate? Is it determinate? It's like all of the questions that come from the 7 different ways of defining the basis.
basis.
Ji. So for example, she says the basis is uncreated and indestructible, but not unchanging. Since
Yeah,
appearances can arise from it. It's all those issues that come up when you discuss the 7 different ways of defining the basis. And she's asked most of the questions.
maybe he's reading my paper or what? Are you reading my paper, Sandra?
Not at the moment. I did
Okay.
try reading your paper. I do have a question about that for another time.
Yeah, these maybe the ground questions, maybe we can save a little bit further because this is much more complicated. And there's when we say ground or the basis, which means I give few talks on that and I'm still writing on it and I struggle with it and there is, soon as conceptualize, then it becomes very difficult to put where, because ground is talking about before samsara and nirvana. If we talk about ground as in a certain way, that's why these early Nyingma tantras and the commentaries want to describe that and then come up different schools assert at least there's 7 different ideas how it should be on the ground. And then one final or someone needs to decide who is correct, yeah. Then they decided that the 7th one is correct. The rest are incorrect. And so we can learn a lot from there, but that's become more complicated. I think probably I have some writings maybe can share with you as well, and we can talk about that in the future. However, everyone, we all chant the prayer that Gundu Sangpo prayer. They say single ground yet two path and two fruition. So that's the ground is talking about that. Whether that is our mind nature, or that is a waking one, or that's an unwaking one, whether that is a Buddha nature or not, it's I'm particularly looking these texts, it seems separate Buddha nature from that. So it's another issue we can talk about. And ground is very important topic in the Dzogchen and other texts, but we do need more kind of maybe written forms to share with others in making sense to others as well, I think. Okay, we can talk later, that part, and then other urgent questions we have or not.
I do have a question about Ramtong and Shentong.
Yes.
Because I've read now perspectives from both sides of the argument.
Yeah.
And what I think I've understood is that it seems like it's proper for them to follow a sequence.
Can you use English words? Your English is much better than mine.
Sure. I think there's a sequence to, for example, studying Chandrakirti versus studying the Uttara Tantra. And so I'm wondering if this is some of the cause of some of the problems here. So for example, when Douglas comments on Boltrell's text, he says that the Rongtong, the empty of self, is meant to be used at the time of the view. to establish the view conceptually, to debate, to come to, to use language and concepts to come to an understanding. And then Shentong or emptiness of other is something to be applied at the time of the path when we're looking into our meditative experiences. And so it's not meant to be argued in a debate kind of situation, the conceptual view, but it's more about our experiential, what's happening in our practice. And I've kind of wondered if that's these two lineages are arguing over different things.
No, I think if you, not you, but if anyone wanted to lopsidedly wanted to think which one is correct, then we have the same thing, 7 views on a ground or basis, same thing. There is two views on how to deal with the phenomena or Buddhist teaching. And if we just ignore one to choose one, then we can introduce in that way. But Mipham wants to harmonize these two, so that's his agenda. But
right, but what I'm saying is I wonder if his way of harmonizing it is to also say that they are useful in different contexts.
not necessarily. He called these two truths. It's not talking about two practices.
Well, but here we're just talking about two different Madhyamaka systems, right? So we're talking about analyzing for the ultimate truth.
Not Madhyamaka.
Well, Rangtong and Shentong, right?
No, because comes to Buddha nature, there's no Madhyamaka things going on. It's a Buddha nature doctrine.
I agree with you. When they call it Shentong Madhyamaka, that sounds it's silly. They use the 3 natures and all that stuff. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but however, the Shentong doctrine, the Turboba, and so forth, they're called a Greek Madhyamaka. The Chandakirti is lesser Madhyamaka. They are greater Madhyamikas.
But it seems also that Mipham uses this term Prasangika Chempa, or what is it, Taljor Chempa? Like great Prasangika to mean a view in which the Uttara Tantra and Chandrakirti are unified.
I don't remember, but yeah, we can put upon. I'm not sure.
I'm just trying to work it out. It's
yeah.
It's a lot of different details.
Anyway, if we want to accept all this view, then we need a tool to accept. If we want to choose just one, then maybe our life is much simpler, but maybe we could miss some part. So maybe I'm trying to introduce these two systems to blend these two together harmoniously. That's his agenda, yeah, his teaching. And of course, then Western academics, they need to say something that interestingly not interesting. Okay, now we go to the text.
I'm on a different system here, so we'll need to make the screen share work well.
Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, anyone has
Too
really,
small.
from these texts, any problem with understanding, please let us know. We have now tools and we have time and wisdom.
Is this visible?
This is visible, or you can make a little bit larger because more? Because
Maybe a little bit more. It will be easier for folks who watch the recording later.
okay,
How's this? I'm just working on getting the form factor better.
Thank you.
okay,
Is that better?
Yes.
yeah,
Okay.
that's good. So here we have this. We talk about this conceptually how phenomena conceptualize, maybe to repeat it, but our thinking process need to exaggerate what is our thinking process works in a certain way that somehow we need to jumble with the term and the actual object itself. When we say cow, some images comes in our mind. But that's here's what other cows, maybe usually four legs, and American cows maybe have no horns. Anyway, that's kind of image will comes in our mind. And then when we see actual cow, that would be have different color, different kind of age and so forth. Here is this is the verse 12 as we are talking about.
I think we were on verse 18 in my notes when we ended.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. Yeah, we talk about these four types of direct perceptions. And we can go next one, the verse 90. Without these direct perceptions, there would be no evidence and hence no inference. And any perception of things rising from the cause and then causing would become impossible. And of course, this is a little bit maybe not that important for us when we go to Tibetan monastic education's debate and this pramana system. Logical syllogism is very important for them. But if you understand what this means, and then would be good enough here, but it's a little bit complicated here, what in order to become inference, qualify as correct inference or become a validity, there is a steps to go. But mainly here is saying that once you, if you see kind of directly things, due to that, then your inference would arise. For example, in the Buddhist, our Buddhist world, maybe there is karma because there would have karma because we are suffering. And even these very famous one is there is smoke on a mountain. Even you don't see fire, but then you can judge or inference there is fire and so forth. These are, if we don't have the direct perception, then we are sort of totally blind and we cannot judge things from there we cannot gain the inference. Next one. Is that clear? You can read other Englishes as well to make, if it doesn't make sense, then let me know.
Sure. I
Maybe.
was going to suggest, Kempo, do you want to read the Tibetan again and we can go back to reading the English?
Sure, we can do that. And Tedana Tini Jetonso Kong le Danishi. Hanilan Matember Tambeton Botmanger. Okay, you can read.
If that were the case, how could we ever understand them to be empty and so on? Without relying upon the conventional, there can be no realization of the ultimate.
Therefore, it is by relying on evidence that one understands emptiness and so forth. Without relying on the conventional, one cannot realize the absolute. And I pass it on to Magda.
If so, as for their emptiness and such, what would we rely on to understand it without relying on the conventional truth? Is it impossible to realize the ultimate truth?
And this is just a quick note for people who may use this file, which is in our study folder. Whenever you see this little red arrow in the upper corner, it means I've added a comment. In this case, I have the footnotes that came from Adam Percy's text on Lotsawa House, where he's just telling us that these two lines are actually from Nagarjuna's Madhyamaka, Mula Madhyamaka Karikas. So when you see this red dot, if you go to it, it'll give you the footnote.
Kempola, you're muted.
Here we often know that, of course, some people cherish too much on conventional truth. That's why they think they cannot live without that, and their fear of losing their comfort zone and life and enjoyment in the samsara. But that's one thing. And then other thing is also we can use as long as we are in a this conventional level or this world, we need to rely on something to understand deeper meaning of that. And that's why this Nagarjuna is saying, without relying on that conventional truth or conventional things, then there will be no realization of the ultimate truth. Means we have, because he used interdependent origination. Yeah? Interdependent origination means something needs to rely on something to either can carry on the nature or carry on the names and so forth. So there is two types of interdependent origination. One is causal interdependent is the result is relying on the cause, and other is sometimes we can just rely on the designation. But day we call day due to the night, we call night due to the day, and then we call these sides of the mountain and that side of the mountain. They are not causal relationship, but they are just these sort of imputation interdependent and so forth. But still, if we have, in order to realize the emptinesses of form or emptinesses of form, then we need to realize through form, and we need to investigate form and so. Okay, next one. Onga leji lo kangi rongyur sarwa nyam nyam ombo musum temena longso hint pomento.
Cognition brought about by the five senses clearly experience their own objects. Without this direct sensory perception, like blind folk, we would fail to see. And I pass it on to Ted.
The sense consciousnesses which arise from the five sense faculties clearly experience their own objects. Without direct sense perceptions, one would not perceive objects like someone who is blind.
Maybe Lincoln?
Am I muted? Nope. The consciousnesses produced relying on the five senses clearly perceive their own objects. Lacking these sensory direct perceptions, just like a blind person, one would not know external things.
These are step by step to introducing these four direct perceptions. So I think it's easy to understand. We don't need to depend too much on, spend too much on this, because sense direct perceptions are, we call eyes, nose, tongue, and so forth. So these are, and then this internal kind of mind or the consciousness, the next one. And 이번 레치 천왕 열사로 주비 잉 무슨 테미추 근투몬도 히비 나브렉 메블죠.
Mental direct perception arises from the faculty of mind and clearly determines both outer and inner objects. Without it, there would be no aspect of consciousness capable of perceiving all types of phenomena. I pass it on to Mariko.
Having arisen based on the mental sense faculty, mental direct perception clearly discerns outer and inner objects. Without mental direct perception, there would be no consciousness of all the phenomena that are commonly known. I pass it on to Spencer.
That which arises relying upon mental faculty clearly distinguishes both inner and outer objects. With no such mental direct perception, the consciousness that knows all objects is missing.
Here we have the five doors perception or sense direct perception are easy to understand, but then, of course, there's internal processes going on, because the five sense faculties or sense consciousness collect the data, and then it comes to the deeper, our kind of internal mind, mental direct perception, and that processes our thinking. So thinking occur in a second mental direct not thinking. I mean, these still not thinking. The direct perception. Sorry, thinking is still not occurring. Thinking means concept. This is talking about the perception. And then we have next one is yogic direct perception. Longhi likbar kumbayan tartu rong yor samnyo namjur musun temena parvi yurnde tomen.
Yogic direct perception is the culmination of meditation practiced properly and according to the instructions. It clearly experiences its own objects, and without it, there would be no vision of objects beyond the ordinary. Pass it on to Paula.
By meditating well according to the scriptures, yogic direct perception clearly experiences its own object, the ultimate. Without yogic direct perception, one would not see the ultimate, which transcends ordinary objects.
Having practiced adeptly according to the teachings, one ultimately clearly perceives objects by himself. Without yogic direct perception, one does not perceive the realm beyond the ordinary.
Yeah, here we can see that this yogic direct perception is arise from meditation. Of course, the meditation is, we all know that is what all Buddhist teachings that finally experience that need to gain through meditation. Even with Dzogchens or Zen tradition, nothing happening, but everything's happened in this yogic meditative practice. So without meditating, then we would not gain experience. And my teachings, most of you already know that there's steps. First, understanding, then contemplating, and then meditation. That really brings you the actual experience. So these experiences called yogic direct perception. It's always involved with understanding of the view. View means philosophy, more really actual, the truth, or truth, which always talking about ultimate truth, which is emptiness, selflessness, and then now we can add on more Buddha nature, luminous aspect, because in Chantakirti's class, I didn't want you to think too much about other burdens that maybe interrupt our thinking process. Seems clear-cut, there's nothing happening. But at the same time, now we have make room to everything happening, and some things are better than others. So that's also we need to think about. But at the same time, not much hope in the fields, but it's a naturally rising meditation that occur. And next one is, I think, more important. People often, it's practically, I'm not sure, but people are always interested in this mental process. And sometimes I heard in India or Nepal, there's some geshis or some Khenpos think no one really know this kind of self-awareness. That I don't know whether they don't know, that's why they think others should not know or would not know. Or anyway, it seems this is a little bit tough subject, and of course there is some disagreements on what this self-awareness is. So we can read these two verses together. It's more about the self-awareness. Ngusum nyongwe sola na chondo chupa shetawa, rongsen lanyo teyo na teshi shen yu tungmin cho. Techir zarik ngo wo yi yurshi shin to rang ni jong, toba me ba rang sarwa ndala rang riki syo.
Just as this direct experience can eliminate misperceptions about outer forms and the like, this is also how it is within the mind itself. If there were some other knower, there would be no end to them. I pass it on to John, and please, folks, just pass along.
Well, you let's read the second verse too, Chenru. We're reading 24 and 25 together.
Yeah, maybe John can read that part, and we can just pass it on. Thank you.
That is cognizant and aware, naturally knows its objects, but at the same time is also aware of itself without relying upon something else. And this is what is termed self-awareness. Sandra.
Experience of direct perception clears away misunderstandings about forms being the way they are. If it were the same in relation to one's own mind, this would entail another knower, and that would be endless. Lincoln.
Therefore, the mind, which is clear and knowing by nature, knows itself in the same way that it knows objects. It illuminates itself without depending on anything else. This is called self-awareness. Ed?
Just as direct perception that perceives forms eliminates erroneous superimpositions in accordance with reality, the mind has self-knowing direct perception. It knows itself. Otherwise, it would need another mind, which ends up endless. Spencer?
Therefore, the mind possesses an entity of clarity and knowing, and just as it knows objects, can clearly know itself without depending on other conditions. Hence, it is called self-knowing.
So here, these two verses are talking about how our mind, hourly, we know that gathering informations or to our mind, and then we have mental consciousness, the direct perception, that also gathers things, and then we have this through the meditation also experiencing things. These all really rely on, or this is the nature of the how we can experience, is because our mind has this nature of self-knowing or self-reflecting. That makes our mind is sometimes maybe we can say powerful, because then we don't need to rely on other minds or others' minds to warrant or to make sure that whether we know or whether we don't know. So that's just the important part. This is, I think here Mipham Rinpoche is talking about the self-awareness that generally we talk about how our mind works, and it comes to Dzogchen and the Mahamudra, it's much more important in their teachings, because now when we talk about the physical world is illusory, like a dream, but then our mind is also deluded by that, and we could not really rely on these sense faculties or sense consciousness or even mind, and even the direct perception of yogis could see things that it's not necessarily reliable, because do you remember Milarepa was in a cave and he saw this demon with eyes much bigger than the body, and so forth. So these could see things through the meditation and experience. But there's things, one thing that we can rely on is our awareness, Rigpa, or sometimes in Mahamudra we call Tamarjishepa, the ordinary mind. And this, why we can, this maybe we cannot say much about our mind generally, but there is our mind has this really inequality that's these sometimes luminous, but luminous means it has a cognitive nature that recognize things need without relying on other things. So that's why we can recognize our mind nature by mind itself, and that's why we can meditate Mahamudra or Great Perfection Dzogchen, looking at the mind nature by the mind itself, without dualistically, there is subject-object duality saying my mind is looking at another part of my mind, is looking at directly the Rigpa of awareness itself is looking itself. So that's why the conceptuality or the dualistic is collapsed there, because there's no room for that. So this is important to understand. At least our mind has the nature of this cognitive power that's we don't need to rely on anything. Is that it's important? Sometimes these self-awareness people are obsessed with how to translate. Should not say self-awareness. It's more like adjectival type of reflective awareness and so forth. But I'm not worried about that. But the main message is this is both in a Pramana tradition and making sense how our mind works, and finally, why this great perfection and Mahamudras can meditate without relying on any object rather than just looking at our own mind nature. I think that's important. So that's why I'm want to emphasize a little bit here. And then I already told the story that in India and Nepal, no one really know what's wrong is these days. So that's if you think that is something, then we need to work harder to understand this. But generally, I think we need to understand this is an important part of us. Maybe we can discuss a little bit about this and then take a break and then come back. How about a 10-minute discussion first? Don't need to share the document now, maybe.
About I have a chart which shows how these direct perceptions interact,
Yes.
which I could show, but on the other hand, I'm concerned it's also a little complicated. So you just explained the important point of it. I feel like I don't want to necessarily make things too complex, but on the other hand, it does show how this works in a kind of a graphic form, if you think that would be useful.
How about when we take a break, you project that part,
Okay,
and then people
we can take a look at it.
look at, and then maybe have another question. But meanwhile, maybe we. So what do you think? I think that that's our important part. Yeah, our mind, no matter what, we have this cognitive nature that cognize itself. So that's very important. Chan or Dzogchen or the looking at the mind. Why we need to look at the mind. Why looking at the mind can stop thinking. And so forth is it's a kind of very powerful meditation, but also behind that, the logic or the reason why it's getting so powerful and why it's making sense to us in a great perfection tradition and Mahamudra tradition. And then other tradition is also sometimes they don't kind of incorporate these particular teachings in their teachings, and then of course that is then the Rigpa is not that important in their tradition. Rigpa, the awareness in Dzogchen and Mahamudra tradition. So Rigpa itself, English translation, pristine awareness or naked awareness or sheer awareness. I heard another translators, they do, but at least if we understand Rigpa is sort of awareness, then maybe awareness itself is good enough in English, maybe we see. But so here, Mipham Rinpoche is not really talking about particular Dzogchen Rigpa, but it's our, at least we have this function. And that's, I think, important here. And he's presenting that from external sense that collecting, not external, these 5 doors sense collecting external things. You can see different, and that data goes to the mental direction perception, and that's, if you deal with meditation, that's can turn into some experience that maybe reliable, but everything sort of the base depend on the self-awareness. Without this, then we would not have experience. We would not know what's going on.
Reading the text together, I was thinking it's almost like Mipham Rinpoche was describing the different stages of training the mind, or of things we will as we progress, it will become more finer and finer, and then in the end, if I paraphrase what you just said, awareness and what is being aware of are also not, we have to let that go too.
Yes, that comes to when talk about meditation, yogic direct perception. There's levels of yogic direct perception. Even, I think last time we talked about Buddha wisdom is sort of yogic direct perception. So then understanding of direct perception is also kind of crucial and a little bit complicated, because the Buddhist teachings saying Buddhas, they don't have inferences. And the Buddhas, they don't have thinking. Buddhas, they don't have concept. However, then we say direct perception. Direct perception is interesting thing that the thinking process, the data collected from the 5 sense doors, it goes through the process in our deeper mental direct perception, and then somehow turn into, through these mental consciousness, makes concept to whether this is good or bad, or judgment, and all these are coming from deeper process. And once we have that, then we caught in, no longer we are talking about the direct objects. We are talking about how to make these things are suitable for us. That's clouds or upgrades the nature of our mind, because nature of our mind is not access through thinking or concept. It's not collected data that need to go process, but nature only maybe can access through nature itself. And that's why this Rigpa or Rangrig, or sometimes it's not true thing, or it's not thing, it's not concept. It's the Dzogchen Rigpa, Mahamudra Rigpa is pristine awareness, the here awareness. It's called awareness, but it's not really a mind. Yeah, the mind is, in a Dzogchen point of view, mind is samsara, mind is concept, and So then it's in English language, it's a little bit difficult to say this is not, the Rigpa is not mind. It's we can easy to say Rigpa is not concept, but Rigpa is not mind. Is Rigpa is not consciousness, and so forth.
So I've heard the term luminous clarity before. Would that apply in this case?
Yes, could be, say, luminous clarity, awareness could, I think somehow need to come with awareness, because the Rigpa means aware, and Rig means aware, Pa means nominalizing that awareness. So in order to make the early general understanding of self-awareness, now we are putting much more nature of our mind than it's a luminous mind or something that might not mind awareness. And so that's why this empty of others is very important. So these, the mind itself is not just totally empty. It has cognized power. It cognizes itself. That's why we call Rigpa, yeah.
I've got a
Yes.
question from Lee. Lee
Yes.
said, is this how realized beings can understand the whole contents of a book, just having it placed upon their heads? No need to bother opening to read it?
Yes, there is we call, especially this, we can think about a few of them, yeah, but many. But famous Jingme Lingpa and Mipham Rinpoche, these are two very popularly kind of accepted, that they never really went to schools, I mean educational, traditional education. And these two are most prolific and most kind of scholar, and also know sutras and tantras and everything. And in the Tibetan, we call Rigpa Longdurwa, means that the outbreath of the Rigpa, or the outflow of Rigpa, which means is the knowledge is coming from inside, not knowledge is coming from outside the books, and so that may be related to that, yeah.
Kempo, could you comment on this idea? When I've had this feeling of turning the mind toward itself, I've thought about it like if you've ever lived in an apartment with cockroaches, when you turn the light on, the cockroaches disappear. It's like that feeling that the thoughts just go into somewhere else, hiding or what, but based on just looking, right?
When you say cockroach and turning on the light, it reminds me my 3-year retreat. When I was there, there's thousands of cockroaches in my room, and especially they like this. I have a stove, that area, but they never hide away from me. Is they when I cook, they even comes. Seems more happier than when lights on. They're they're more happier than that I'm not sure. So I don't understand the analogy of the hiding part. Are you saying when we look at its hides, or when we don't look at it hides, or something that hides from us? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's maybe my question. Like, does it really, if you turn and look at the mind, do the thoughts disappear or do they subside sort of just into, do they
Oh, you are
dissolve?
talking about the thoughts. Yeah, that's Guru Rinpoche and my teachers saying at that moment, it's not high thoughts. Thoughts here maybe is a little bit sometimes difficult to accept, but think about this. Thoughts are never exist, and thoughts are rise due to our concept, yeah, like dream, as dream images or dream events never exist. But here is seems much more powerful than hiding. Maybe in other teachings we could say thoughts are subside, thoughts are, and they never say thoughts are disappear to cut off. So Dzogchen, this cutting through practice, at least when you look at your mind inwardly, if we correctly see our mind nature by mind nature, then thoughts are cut off. That's why it's cutting through. And because thoughts have no trace, when it's not there means never be there. So it's not really hiding. It's stopped thinking. Yeah. If hiding means then trace of somewhere is would be there. It's not like that. So it's a little bit different and more powerful. That's why I'm trying to saying here is that this self-cognizing our mind nature is so powerful that if we just stop thinking to looking at our mind, then it really stops everything. So that is sort of powerful teachings I get, and I also think that is really something we can rely on.
Lee has another question.
Okay.
Does this method of looking back into the mind facilitate the third liberation of Rangdro, which is apparently a rare siddhi these days?
Yes, Rangdro is usually Rangdro means self-liberating. So if we look at our mind, so self-liberating, as people often, I think, by including myself, or sometimes we conceptually think the liberation means something need to change. I think in here, it doesn't mean need to change. It's everything is just like a picture. Yeah, it's that, or it's become functionless, as you say. If you look at your mind, don't need to change anything. So once it change, then maybe need to involve effort and so forth. But yeah, Rangdor means self-liberation, which means just be as itself, maybe, like self-liberation is.
Mariko has a question.
Yes.
Just ask it herself, though, I think.
So I don't have it in front of me, but I was reading a book by the Dalai Lama on Dzogchen,
Yes.
and it was just a really small part. He didn't go into it, so I can't really give maybe the correct terminology. But I was thinking about what Sandra had to say, and I had that experience too, when you really focus your mind on your mind, the thoughts stop.
Yes.
But I read somewhere in the book by the Dalai Lama saying that you have to really distinguish between just resting in mental quietude
Yeah.
and Rigpa. And maybe that's something that would have to come on later in our course to talk about that. But I wanted to just ask for some clarity about that because it wasn't totally clear from what he was saying in his book.
Yes, that will come. Lee requests me to somehow he found me online. I think we never met, but you can see Lee is from England and he's joining us here. So he wanted me to teach this next, the Jingmilingpas Vajra verses. And that's somehow I by myself also, I didn't know these texts when I grew up. No one teach me. And but somehow Garchen Rinpoche, one time I asked teach me this Dzogchen and also some mind pointings, and then he introduced or he say there are two texts that really help for his practice, and one of them is what we did in a GBI this time, Mipham Rinpoche's the Manjushri prayer, and one is Jigmelingpa's Vajra verses. So I already know practice in Mipham Rinpoche's text very early on and 3 years retreat, but the Jigmelingpa's Vajra verses I only encounter or know after Garchen Rinpoche told me that I need to memorize and recite that text. So that's why I was really into it. I memorized and there is a few lines at that time, or Garchen Rinpoche often quote these lines that you can see if you have this confidence, then if you see millions of scholars and panditas and yogis, you would not have any doubt on these to clarify if you look at that part as well. And so somehow this text is hidden from me, what Sanders was saying, but it's revealed by Garchen Rinpoche, and this is really, really important text. So maybe fortunately, we can discuss these texts very soon. And that really clarifies these, these sinking into or these space out in a realm of without much kind of concept or thoughts in a meditation, and what is bias. So these contrasts in very well in these texts. If you have text already, maybe you can reveal it, but it's already in the Lord Sava house. I also involved a little bit with Adam Percy to clarify a little bit, because I was teaching these texts one time in a Tucson. I think Anne knows, maybe Paula knows that And then I met Edmund Percy a few times, and I told him that a few areas that maybe need to change. And we did that, but maybe still can do some kind of improve the text, but we didn't have much time to do it. So we see, but mainly these texts in English, as my point of view, is a good translation. So that I need to say because I involved with that, but you can judge as well. So from there, I don't want to bragging myself that much here. And I try to introduce this, how important this text is to others. Then a few years later, someone told me back that, what your verses? I never heard of. Yeah, maybe heard of. We went through that kind of argument back and forth could occur. But this text is really, really important, and particularly people who meditate the Stocktian style or Mahamudra style. Yeah. So meanwhile, maybe James, you can project what you have, and we have taken a 15-minute break. Okay, come back 3:30, 14 minutes.
That distinction. I was trying to read Mipham's commentary on the Madhyamaka.
Yes.
And at one point, I took him to be offering a kind of extended critique of what I took to be a Shentong understanding of emptiness, which was confusing because my understanding of Mipham more generally is that sometimes he's advancing a Shentong view or position. So am I right? I guess the way I've tried to understand it is to think that in that context, because he's writing in a Madhyamaka context, that he would be taking up a wrong tongue position that was dependent on that context, whereas in other contexts he might not advance the same understanding of, or be so adherent to that way of construing or understanding emptiness.
Yes, most commentators, they don't go, if talk about Abhidharma, they don't use Chantakirti's Madhyamaka to defeat or to say anything. So that's why it's usually the commentaries stays in that that boundary. So that's why I think Mipham's commentary on Chantakirti's usually want to emphasize what Chantakirti says. Of course, then that is difficult to maintain or difficult to, because there's many point of view that what Chantakirti really says is difficult to say, but he would not go to Xiantong there. I think you, at least this is another sort of homework that this point I want you to read this Lion's Roar. It's particularly talking about the Xiantong. And that's very short. It's English article would be 25 page maybe. I mean, it's very, very short text, but that's Mipham's own writing, and he's now not really relying on or not kind of constrained by any particular doctrine. So here he's talking about the Xiantong itself, its lion's roar, the comprehension discussion with the nature is totally relevant to us here. And then maybe next session we can discuss a little bit about Xiantong and what do you think on this Xiantong text he's using. So that's maybe important part. And James, thank you for sharing that how the direct perceptions work or turn into concept, and still the self-awareness is the main kind of component that's still involving these processes, and even concepts turn into concept, but in at least the Mipham's tradition, the concept is also inwardly in its direct perception. And that's another nuances that are difficult to understand sometimes, but even our concept means kind of looking outwardly. Even we thinking about our mind, that's thinking directionally, maybe thinking inwardly, but it's still called outwardly because take as an object. You can see all of these take objects. And so that's outwardly this all concept, inwardly is self-aware because it's a consciousness. Yeah, it's a cognizing thing. Once cognizing means itself needs to cognize. If not, then it's not really mind or cognizing anything. And this is very debatable because the concepts are not direct perceptions. Self-awareness always direct perception. You can see here the chart, both self-aware is direct valid cognition, means direct perception, direct valid perception. There's no self-awareness that is concept. And of course, then we are not talking about every consciousness is direct perception, but outwardly, these concepts could be concept, but inwardly they are direct perception. So that's another thing you need to deal with, of course, Buddhist pramanas and so forth. Maybe look the chat in the future, and if you don't still doesn't make sense, let us know. Maybe we can talk
Or
more.
I could say a few words right now if that's okay.
Yeah.
So this is outlining a theoretical 3 moments of perception. But of course, there's no 3 moments. This is just going on all the time. But for purposes of distinguishing how these various valid cognitions work, we break it into 3 moments. So here in this first moment, do you guys see when I move my mouse over this?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in this first moment, sense direct valid cognition takes its object, right? So my eyes see shape and color. Then in the second moment, the sense direct valid cognition is still functioning and it sees an object, but we know that objects change moment to moment, right? So it shows it's seeing another object. And now that data that's collected by sense direct valid cognition gets replicated in a non-conceptual way to mental direct valid cognition. So everything that takes place in the upper half of this chart is non-conceptual. And one of the reasons I thought it would be interesting is because, as Kempo has been saying, if you look to the left, all of this is cognized by self-aware direct valid cognition. So nothing that happens is outside of the realm of self-aware direct valid cognition. And so then the bottom half of the chart is just showing that after the sense direct data goes to mental direct valid cognition, right, which is where the concepts start coming in. So for example, if you're watching a movie, your eye sees shape and color, your ear hears sound. Those two phenomena are not technically related. They're just arbitrary phenomena perceived by your senses. So the sixth consciousness, which comes in on the chart on the bottom, begins to integrate all that and present to us a unified experience. And then we start to develop concepts about all that, which is shown at the very bottom. So only at the very bottom does the conceptual mind come in. And even that is seen by self-aware direct valid cognition you see on the left. So all of this is taking place within the realm of self-aware direct valid cognition. And it's just, this chart is just showing how this process of perception works. And of course, though, but as I said earlier, Kempo really brought the main point home. This is just for people who are interested in starting to go deeper into pramana. So I'll have this in our folder, and I'll stop now so Kempo can continue.
Okay. Now you know exactly how our mind works. And yeah, now I think we go back to our verses, and then it's not that difficult to understand these verses. Just the vocabularies we can build up from here, and how our mind functions, and how we can treat objects in a differently. So that's just the main thing. And now next verse. So he's still talking about the self-awareness.
Any experience of the other direct perceptions is only determined to be actual direct perception by means of self-awareness. Without this, there would be no way of establishing it. Sandra.
Whatever the other direct perceptions experience is ascertained as being direct perception. through self-awareness. Without self-awareness, there would be no way to establish this. John?
While perceiving, while perceiving by means of other direct perceptions, that which determines them as actual direct perception is only self-knowing, without which reliance upon other is of no avail.
Mm-hmm. I think that's almost we already sort of discussed. And next one. And now we are talking about these pramanas, the valid. We talk about these four direct valid cognitions, and now we're talking about inference that we're dealing with. Jiba ngusum tsawa je ngusum rangri ni jinga mantra lo yinyam la toni dribi shendame.
The root of inference lies in direct perception, and direct perception is determined by self-awareness. It all comes down to the experience of an undiluted mind. There are no other means of establishment beyond this. Lincoln?
Inference is rooted in direct perception, and direct perceptions are ascertained by self-awareness. Within the experience of an unmistaken mind, when the experience of an unmistaken mind is reached, nothing further is needed to establish that. Mariko?
The root of inference is direct perception, and direct perception is determined by self-knowing. These all come down to unmistaken perception of mind, and there are no other ways of establishing them.
So earlier talkings about these almost two systems that direct perceptions, we don't need to rely on the inference because inference is relying on some signs or reasons and so forth. And we already know that all these direct perceptions are rooted in this self-awareness direct perception. But not only that, these inferences also are based on the self-awareness, because in order to make a judgment that first needed to sign or seeing directly objects, that is also rooted in the self-awareness. And that is even the further concept or the inferences also need to rely on the self-awareness. Okay, next, maybe. Teacher Dr. Mantrovi Musum Tala Dennis Mundu Jurbi Chuna La Trondo number 7.
Therefore, it is based on direct perceptions, which are non-conceptual and undiluted, that misperceptions of apparent phenomena can be decisively eliminated. Spencer?
Therefore, on the basis of direct perceptions that are non-conceptual and unmistaken, misunderstandings are eliminated about manifest phenomena. Magda?
Thus, it is based on non-conceptual, unmistaken direct perception that for everything that appears before one, all erroneous superimpositions can be eliminated.
So here, diluted is maybe could misleading, because here is often we say this subject-object duality or samsara or appearances are delusional things. Here is not talking about that. It's talking about the direct perceptions that nothing to do with the concept is maybe unmistaken. Either it's saying that it's seeing directly the objects in a conventional level what it is. It's not really saying a deeper meaning of whether it's deluded or mistaken or not. It's just it's a way of saying, but Tibetan has true, and English has a strong sense of deluded and mistaken, and those. So unmistaken is maybe a little bit better.
Kempo, is this this is the 4 superficial causes of error for direct perception, right?
Yeah,
Nitarta at least translates it as unmistaken.
okay, it seems, yeah, unmistaken.
Because they want to make a distinction that this is an error, but it's not a conceptual error. It's a non-conceptual error.
And also this, when deluded, it seems like then this is sort of the ultimate thing.
Right.
It's nothing to do with ultimate. It's just saying the objects is there in the conventional level. If you see objects as it is, then it's unmistaken kind of.
Right. So
yeah.
just so people have an idea what we're talking about, this is talking about like if you're sitting on a train and another train moves and you don't know which train is moving, that's not a conceptual error. It's a problem with the perception. Or if you have jaundice and you see a white snow mountain as yellow, that's not a projection of the conceptual mind. It's a problem with the the faculty. So
Yeah.
when it says unmistaken here, we're still in direct perception. So there's no concept, but there are still errors. They're just not conceptual errors.
Yeah, maybe errors or dismantle is more like correct or incorrect. It's not that mistake and deluded are seems quite strong in here. Sometimes people misunderstand there's real thing or ultimate truth or something. No, direct perception is here not same. However, when emptiness is realized at first Burma, we call this path of enjoyment. And why this enjoyment arises? Because emptiness seeing through direct perception, or emptiness realizing directly. And that's also called direct perception, but that is more the yogic direct perception, yeah, the early meditation we talk about. And then here, misperception, yeah, misperceptions used here. That's maybe better. So anyway, that's now here is talking about only conventional level, or even can go a little bit further. When we say that direct perception should not have any misunderstanding or incorrect way of seeing, whether seeing the emptiness or whether seeing the just cars on the roads, or it doesn't matter. It should be match what level or what condition it is. Next one. Yornam tongji jesong de menzo se no doxie wa doxie yi tsedan tani naso jevershi. This is more how concept works. Yeah.
The conceptual mind is that which conceives of objects by way of general images, associating them with the names to form concepts, from which stem all manner of words and thoughts. James?
Understanding happens through apprehending objects as mental images and mixing those images with names. This is the activity of the mental consciousness and its concepts, which then develop all sorts of conventional terminology.
James, do you want to pass on?
Yes, Spencer, please.
Perceiving objects' general characteristics and associating them with names so as to know the real objects. This is conceptual mind, with which one can perfectly utilize various names and expressions.
I don't know in the West, do they teach in this how concept works, but this is more Indian way of saying that how labels could be powerful and could be labels because just the name and the actual objects blended together in a mental, our consciousness. So that's why when we say cow, automatically arise image of cow in our mind. So that's how these concept works or phenomena. So that's just process of the concept. And next one, that may be
Even for someone unaware of the proper expression, generic images will appear in the mind, ready to be named. And through such concepts, objects can still be pursued or avoided. Ted?
Mental images appear in the mind even for beings who do not understand language. By using concepts, they have the ability to mix images with names to either engage or not engage with objects. John?
To those who are not familiar with names and expressions, the object's general characteristics can still appear to their minds. Depending on a mind that is capable of associating them with names, they thus adopt or abandon such objects.
Yeah, I think the Tibetan, these terms sometimes it's important. The Tenchi is the general mental image. It's English generic images. Yeah, that appears to.
It's not horrible, but it's not great.
Yeah, it's not exactly matched, but it's fine. I don't know what else can say here. Yeah,
In the third translation where it says the object's general characteristics, that's maybe a little better.
yeah, that sounds better.
I also, sorry.
Yes.
I also wonder maybe Ted would have comments on this because he is the theorist in English and he knows all about semiotics theory. So like, what would be a
Yeah.
better word?
Yes, please share with us some.
I've been kind of trying to translate my very fragmentary and inadequate understanding of pramana into my own reference points, and I think it's leading to a lot of confusion. I mean, one thing I'm struck by in this part is the distinction between like a pre-linguistic mental image that intervenes between direct perception and linguistic naming, where it's almost like there's a pre-linguistic imputation that, you know, generic images appear in the mind ready to be named. So there's some kind of intermediary, which I'm not used to. I have a question related to this, but maybe I'll hold off on it.
Yeah, the language or this mainly they talk about animals.
Uh-huh.
So cow would not. We humans think all the time we are the best. So cow would not know the term for the water. But even a cow don't see the water directly in front of a cow. But when cow get thirsty, these sort of general characteristic of the object, which is water. So cow would go to that riverside where can get the water. So the idea is that animals would not have proper language function to make terms and names, but they would have this function of sort of imagining or the conceptualizing these things. And this is called, it's not a little bit not a level of the terms names, but who knows?
The generic reads to me almost like something we all think of the same image, but using what you just shared with cows, for me, it's more like experiential image. So depends on which river this cow has previously encountered, right? So it's not necessarily all the cows across the world, when they're thirsty, they think of something abstract like a huge body of water. It's each cow is thinking of their own water. Like when we say apple, everyone is thinking of a different apple, right? So that's why I asked Ted. It's
Well,
not
but hold on though. That's not the whole story though, because then you can only recognize the individuals you've seen. We do have the ability to abstract based on past experience. So if I see an apple, I can identify another apple, even though it's not exactly the same as the ones I've seen before. I am abstracting general characteristics.
Right. So that's why I wanted to ask Ted. So it's this specific, unique, experiential, and yet there's something about the common theme or something about this.
Right. I guess if I could maybe ask my question now, this kind of relates to the question of what validity means in the context of, or like a valid inference means in this context where there's no reference made to a social field, because that's only happening once we get to linguistic terms. So I guess I wonder, like, how can, like the cow have a generic generalized image of a phenomenon or based on a perception prior to some kind of reference to a social set of symbols, like socially shared set of symbols. And related to that, then like what does validity mean, like a valid inference mean in that context?
Yeah, the validity is not all concept has a validity. So it's here is more how the concept works, because when say concept, then we have directly access to the objects, which means then whatever we in our head or mind has is thing that we experienced before or we heard a name. So this general idea of what that should be. So only that we can create or we have access of that. We don't have directly access to that object. So that's why these concepts never reach to the actual objects. It's just concept, and these dealing with a lot of debate, both non-Buddhist and Buddhist. Non-Buddhist, we have this Jizuo, the principle, sort of cowness. If we don't have, there is cowness in a cow, then how we can connect, how we can say these, all these are cows. Maybe some are big, some are small, some are young, some are old, and some are in America, some are in other places, yeah. But how this cowness, since there's connection of it, it's beyond these individual cows, there is something that represents cow. So that is even in Buddhist thinking would have that. So that's why we can these access to or the create thinking of these just general characteristics of cow, then we can sort of sometimes unmistakably can lead to that object. So yeah, that's much more, of course, than there's no such things except individual cows. There's nothing is to connect to that. Is easy way of saying, but it's sometimes difficult to explain everything. I think that's why it's almost like in a West, Plato's goods that heaven is upstairs, is everything's perfect. So down here is just sort of reflection copy of it. So something have to be there in order to have here. Kind of that's Hindus also have similar concepts that cowness is pervading everything. Humanness is we are, because whether we are different gender, different race, but we still have some humanness in here. So that's another. But conceptually, we don't need to access individual humans, but we can think about we are humans. Either we are very, very good humans and less good humans, but still humans.
Yeah, but I wonder.
Yes.
I wonder if this is a good time to check in with the group, just because it may not be obvious to everyone that we're discussing an important point. Like, and we also discussed apoha last session, and it's because of this issue that philosophy comes about. So I have this concern that maybe some people are sitting here like, what are they talking about with generic images and all this stuff? Do people feel like they're following the conversation well? Like, do we know that this is talking about like set theories, classes and instances, right? I have a class of cows and I know individuals of cows. And so Buddhism seems to jump through some hoops in order to avoid saying there is something that like cowness that exists. And it seems like a lot of philosophy gets developed over this point, but if people aren't aware of it, then you just kind of pass over it and don't even realize that's what we're talking about. Did I just complicate the issue?
Yeah, a little bit, I think, and
sorry, Kempa. So yeah, I can leave it there if we don't want to go any further, but otherwise there's really good pramana issues to get into here.
no, I'm joking. That's good. Anything feedback or knowledge sharing is very good. But I think we are some point in the Mipham Rinpoche. It's important, and we know that we can label things, and that doesn't necessarily should be there. And there is another Mipham sword, which is called Daxianji Tetsum Chawar Jubirati, the sword which cuts the dots of the designations. I don't know if that translate or not.
I don't think so.
But that's there he really point out that names and the actual objects has no relationship at all. Nothing, zero. And which shows everything's imputation. The concept, how we know now concepts of work. We call this cow, which usually have 4 legs and maybe color brown or doesn't matter. Eat grass and give a lot of milk to us. And so there's also, as soon as we make definitions of cow, that is blurred and also lose the pinpoint, because then the ox should have that, horse have that, and camel has that, and then we are not really talking about cow, because as soon as we define something through concept, then we are losing the actual entity. Until we reach to the actual entity, no matter what we describe through our concept, even we have very good ability to articulate things, but still explore with other things. And so there is a definition of water is liquid, and then maybe milk is liquid. That's why milk is water. And so it's a lot of complications will arise when makes assumption that these characteristics only goes to these. And then particularly we can think about emptiness, interdependent, and so forth. And in the Nagarjuna's point of view, samsara and nirvana are same, yeah. Then it's sometimes helpful, but sometimes not helpful. But at least knowing how we conceptualize and these labeling things reach to the actual object or not, probably not. And then Mipham want to say that the name and the actual entity has nothing to do with it. It's just connecting by ourselves. How to connect it, then each language has different way of calling it. Yeah? Fire is many ways Tibetan call Mei, Chinese Fo, and so it's different.
Can I
So that's, I think, purpose. Yes.
Sorry, can I ask you to build on what you just said and talk about time as well? Because as you are talking, it seems to me that you describe that we missed the mark, and there's almost like a time progression to it, right? As soon as language and label, the recognition and then perception, labeling, naming, and then we miss the mark. We completely not seeing the actual entity anymore. We're trapped in the concepts. But so I wonder if, but also all of these teachings are saying there's no such a thing as linear progressive time. That's a delusion. So I want you to, maybe you can say a little bit more how maybe this deluded mind, through perceiving and naming, we create the sense of time.
Yeah, the time is, I think, most important part. But what I learned is sort of Western point of view that if motion, you cannot see dot. Once you see dot, it's not moving. And usually what we say is time is something that's there, yeah. As if there is motion, time has motion, then it means we cannot really point that particular dot there because it's moving. So motion and dot, these two time is then in the Buddhist doesn't really treat it as a causal relationship, I think, but it's I think people, whether Western or Eastern, they just accept it as assuming that time is there. And of course, then we feel that we feel sometimes when difficult times, we feel very long time, even short times, or even we feel very short times when we are really happy, which means interesting part of our life. And so time is what we describe through is our feeling is not describing as not we are accessed time to direct perceptionally or directly access to the time. Time is just another illusion that how we feel it. And I'm not sure I can say there's no time, then it's interesting things. So Dzogchen practice, this time is very important. Yeah, we cannot really, because there's no reflex chasing the past tense or future tense or now tense. It's not saying there is time, but you should not chase. It's saying there's nothing there you can chase. So time is it's difficult to just negate, say there's no time, but I think time is most difficult to pinpoint one thing that we cannot pinpoint, and because once we find a dot, then it's not moving. As it's not motion. So here we are almost. I need to end very soon. Everyone, thank you so much for coming. Hopefully enjoy our conversation, but you need to come back, okay? So, however, next week is what we say. We have some conflicts with my other teaching.
So we're not meeting on November 9th. Our next meeting will be November 16th.
Yeah. And meanwhile, you can read Mipham's Lion's Roar, very short, very important text, talk about on Buddha nature. And then if you found another Mipham's sword that cuts it out on the conventional designations, then that would be good, but maybe it's not available in English. Usually these 2 source or 3 source are important, means can cut doubts on these things. And any priority you want me to talk about, let me know now or later, or doesn't matter. Yes, Spencer.
There was one question that we almost missed, and they wanted me to bring it up.
Okay.
Lee was asking, is conceptual designation necessary for phenomena to come about?
Whenever, yes, I mean, in order to, we all think that we all have concept. In order to make sense through concept. Without the concept, then we cannot make sense. Just raw data reflection that maybe our appearance to appear on a mirror that doesn't process what's going on and what it is and so forth. But necessary is a interesting word that we can think about that. I mean, in order to making sense, yes, concept is very important, but then concept itself is somehow we need to go beyond the concepts. Yeah, actual practice. Yeah. One more question, or we just dedicate our merit?
Maybe
I
we,
think today's will be the English.
okay, we can do dedication.
All sources of virtue amassed throughout the 3 times as represented by this practice are with the immaculate wisdom of pure presence and awareness, sealed within the great and total purity of 3 spheres, and in the expanse of the great perfection, the natural state. Ah.
Continue.
Glorious root Lama, precious one, dwell on the lotus seat in the depth of my heart. Look upon me with the grace of your great compassion. Grant me the attainments of body, speech, and mind towards the lifestyle and activity of the Lama. May not even a moment's wrong view ever occur, and may I see their every action as a teaching for me. Through such devotion, may the Guru's blessing fill my mind. In all my lives, may I have never be separated from the perfect Guru, and may I derive full benefit from the splendid Dharma, so accomplishing the 5 paths and 10 stages, and swiftly attaining the perfection of Vajradhara.
I think you're muted, Kampola.
Thank you so much, everyone. Spend time together. It's enjoying. Some are very old friends, some are new, and some are between, and some are far from, some are near, but not really. I don't have any from, oh yeah, I have another one from California, only one. So anyway, if that works, then we can do November 16th, okay?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Kampola, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.